Oh, the good old new generation era. It's a new era here in the World Wrestling Federation, said Vince. An era where it kicked off with Hulk Hogan winning the WWF title once again at WrestleMania 9. Cool. With business being down in 1992 because of the bad press from the steroid scandal, Vince was starting to push younger talents into the spotlight. So he put the title on the best young up-and-comer Bret Hart. But he couldn't resist not giving Hogan the title back. His urge for big muscular champion was stronger than being a wise man in that endeavor, brother. But Hogan finally dropped the title to Yokozuna, a title that he disgraced, calling it a toy and that it doesn't have a value. Ouch. I'm sure Vince was happy about that. Anyway, Hulk Hogan left the company and it feels like a breath of fresh air in the World Wrestling Federation locker room. Vince now has no excuse to push the younger talents. All of his big star has gone. Some of them left the company not because of money, of course, and some in Under the Giant's case had passed away. Rest in peace. He has a locker room full of potential. Guys like Bret Hart, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Diesel, Lex Luger, Yokozuna, Owen Hart, and even Crush Tatanka. It's not a bad roster by any means. This new generation thing is shaping up to be great. Sure, the pressure might be on and it's hard to follow the big success of the Working Wrestling Connection era, but with these guys and with the great vets that they have, the future looks exciting. This experiment is not gonna fail. There is no way. Vince would never screw it up. You're kidding, right? He's a genius. But truth is, history says that this era was a huge failure, and by revisiting it, I can confirm that it was terrible. And Raw on that timeline was unwatchable. And please don't kill me, but it's worse than nowadays. Please don't get fooled by nostalgia and the big stars that the era had, but those shows were just on another level of awfulness. But Bret and Shawn, they were great. I grew up watching them, they made me fall in love with wrestling. Are you dumb, MH? What the hell are you talking about? Look, the fact is, these two guys, and it's no exaggeration, did in fact carry the World Wrestling Federation on their back. And it's no wonder that Shawn had back surgery later and Bret left the World Wrestling Federation after he helped them to not run out of business. And yes, it's true, there was a time where the World Wrestling Federation would have gone bankrupt. These two guys did their best to make the show less severable, but it's too much for their backs to handle. Case in point, the new generation era was terrible. But why though? You want the short answer or the long answer? Well, if you said the short answer, well, because the product was no good. But if you said the long answer, the title of the video is my answer. But that's not long enough, so I'm gonna go further and explain to you the bizarre and awful gimmicks of the new generation era. So this era, which expanded from 1993 to 1997, is synonymous with bad and awful gimmicks and characters. It's almost like that's the only thing it's known for. Well, other than the fact that it sucked. It's not like the 80s didn't have any bad gimmicks, but in this timeline specifically is where Vince was experimenting with more various ideas and new and original gimmicks, with hoping and praying that at least one or two characters could have the same magic that a gimmick called The Undertaker had and still does. Well, his experiment failed miserably and none of them survived, but yet somehow they still managed to find a place in our hearts years later, remembering how bad but great they are. And we grow to like them for all the wrong reasons. They definitely have a spot in the Shockmasters Hall of Fame. But enough with that BS and let's get to the good stuff. Now let's go through these gimmicks and explore their deep history, shall we? Gimmick number 1, my favorite and yours too, Bastian Booger. So I assume that you know who Bastian Booger is. I'm sorry? You don't? You're kidding. I have so many questions. First of all, how dare you? Bastian Booger's gimmick was the equivalent of fat shaming in the 90s. The gimmick of an unkempt, slovenly and gluttonous man who wrestled in dingy, too small, grey, beige singlets tailored to give him the appearance of a hunchback. I swear that's what I said on Wikipedia. It's 100% Vince's idea in case you're wondering. Look at him! He's a disgusting fat guy, haha, that's funny, pal. I sincerely apologize for that bad Vince impression. Also, the wrestler who portrayed the gimmick, Mike Shaw, who passed away in 2010, rest in peace, was allegedly punished for his weight, so that explained how absurd he looked. The character made its debut on June 1993 episode of WWF Superstars, receiving laughter from the crowd, which is a very odd way to get heat. But in all seriousness, you can't take a diaper-wearing man seriously. Even the kids agree that this is actually stupid. I have to give it to Vince, he was trying to put over his creation on commentary even though the thing he said is ridiculous. He lost to Virgil of all people, but he definitely won the heart of the crowd that night. He got his revenge on Virgil the following week, beating him clean, establishing himself as a big dominant star. He continued to show more of his dominance and immeasurable strength as he reigned supreme and remained victorious against the likes of Phil Apollo, legendary wrestler Mike Bell, future Hall of Famer Scott Desprez, Scott Vito, man that was a battle. And who can forget his huge victory over Mike Corey? Some people might agree that was actually in fact the highlight of his career. But not only did he beat them clean in the middle of the ring, he used his legendary move, the move that every living human being is terrified of. Nobody was able to escape or kick out from. Of course, we're talking about the trip to the Bat Cave. The name by itself made me feel shit scared. The move is so painful, but definitely for the only reason that I don't even know how can you describe this move to a non-wrestling fan without sounding kinda gay. But at the end of the day, wrestling is fake. Bastian Booger only real claim to success in the WWF was kissing Luna Vachon. Yes, that happened. The gimmick lasted longer than it should have died within a week, but it lasted about 6 months, which is very impressive. But before Mike Shaw became Bastian Booger, he was first given another gimmick, and while it's not as terrible as Bastian Booger, it is still infamous. He was Friar Ferguson, which is our second gimmick. I don't know which of the two gimmicks was more humiliating to him, but sheesh. This is tough. He dressed ridiculously, looked unconvincing. I want my gimmicks to be believable, dammit. He did some weird stuff in the ring, and just like Bastian Booger, his weird move was sitting on the faces of his opponents. Totally the kind of thing that I want on my wrestling. There is no backstory here, just a gimmick that lasted about a week before the Catholic Church of New York was very offended of how poorly Monks was presented. So they sent feedbacks to the World Wrestling Federation and the gimmick was dropped. Next, we have another iconic gimmick, the legendary Mantaur. Man, I have a lot of things to say about this one. The half-man, half-beast. That's not a nickname, that's who he truly is. He's a minotaur and he's terrifying. Look at him, dammit. Mike Hollick, the wrestler who was gifted this brilliant character, was using the ring name Bruiser Mastino before joining WWF, which is also the name that Kane used in WCW. I don't know, I thought that was really interesting. The 400-pound beast was built from the island of Crete, which according to Wikipedia is the largest and most populous of the Greek islands, made his TV debut on the January 7, 1995 episodes of Superstars of Wrestling, to a very interesting and I dare say shocking reaction from the crowd. The amusement is very obvious on their faces. The definitely very scary and not ridiculous beast came out victorious against his enhancement talent opponent. Mantaur then began a small winning streak, defeating a series of jobbers. He came close to beating the Intercontinental Champion Razor Ramon, but lost the match by disqualification due to interference by Jeff Jarrett. He was this close. It sucks, man. Mantaur also competed in the Royal Rumble match and lasted 9 minutes before being eliminated by Lex Luger. After a memorable run lasting about 6.5 months, he was fired from the company. But despite his time in WWF was cut short, his fans will always and forever remember the way he charged, trembled and moved at his opponents. His moves brought tremendous pain and fear in the heart and soul of every man he stepped in the ring with. Another gimmick that I love is Phantasio. Phantasio, for some of you fans that have been living under a rock, is a magician. Why would a magician become a wrestler, you might ask? And to that I say, my friend, being a magician doesn't really pay the bills. He wants to make money, give him a break. Now that I think about it, it's not about the money sometimes. Because then you have a guy like Hearst Helmsley who's a rich nobleman. We'll get to him later. So it could be possible that Phantasio wanted to show his magic skills to a wider audience because his whole act was incorporating his trick in the ring to amuse the fans and intimidate his opponents. Harry Del Rios, the wrestler portraying the character, made his first TV WWF appearance on the July 16, 1995 episode of Wrestling Challenge. He came to the ring with his magician uniform and black and white mime face paint. He defeated the jobber via roll-up and did some stuff after the match, like removing the referee's boxers, revealing that he in fact wears a black and white colored underwear. Very funny. That was the first and last match he had on TV. He magically disappeared from the company and never to be seen again. It's interesting that at one time they had a clown and a magician in their roster. Would have loved the idea to pair them together and call this team the Circus Duo. Back to Hearst Helmsley, the Connecticut blue blood, the guy with a fake terrible British accent who always had a schmuck look on his face, and you can't stop staring at his big nose. Oh, and he had a ponytail. To say that this gimmick is not suitable for Triple H is an understatement. And it's not like he didn't try to make it work, but you can't take him seriously with the accent, and it's cheesy AF. He's a rich guy who came from a royal family, very well mannered, who wanted the tough world that is professional wrestling. He wanted to get in the ring and show his mom and dad that he's a tough boy. What's so ridiculous about the gimmick? I don't see no problem whatsoever. It's not about the money to him. I don't know what it's about, but it's not about the money. This character made its debut on April 30th, 95 episode of Wrestling Challenge, defeating a jobber by the name of Plugg somehow, and the rest was history. Which means he will later be repackaged as a total different character and will marry the boss's daughter and will ruin wrestling in the early 2000s, and he would run NXT. Yeah, you can tell that to someone in 95 and he will definitely believe you. Yankem. Before he became the mayor of Knox County, Glenn Jacobs used to be a dentist. It's a very unknown fact that some of you wrestling nerds don't know about. He was a shitty dentist with DDS degree. He was Jerry Lawler's private dentist. He's big, strong, terrifying looking, his medical outfit is hideous, his teeth looked awful, the perfect embodiment of what kids' nightmare perception of a dentist is. And it's funny because this is Vince's idea because he hated dentists and found them scary. Vince is a weird cat with a mind of a 5-year-old. Yankem was brought in as the King's Muscle during his feud with the Hitman, and he had several matches with Brett, including one inside a steel cage on an episode of Raw. Kane, or excuse me, Mr. Isaac Yankem, looked definitely wrong. Even after taking some of his ring wardrobe, the hair and the jeans, it's not right. That's not my Kane. And I can't stand that annoying sound of an entrance music. I guess that's the point of it. Well, they succeeded in making me wanna punch my fucking ears out. His finishing move was a DDT. How creative. But he called it the DDS, which is clever, I give him that. Nothing else to add about the gimmick. It was during the time where most of the gimmicks needed to be random occupation somehow, and while this gimmick sucked, it's still no Bastian Booger. At least it's original. Unlike the fake Razor Ramon or fake Diesel. Well, how about that transition, eh? As you may know, Kane portrayed fake Diesel, and a wrestler by the name of Rick Bogner played the fake Razor Ramon character. They were first introduced by heel Jim Ross, who false promised the fans the return of two popular WWF superstars, Ramon and Diesel. And what the fans got was the Walmart version of Razor Ramon and Diesel. Hey, at least it's better than betraying a crazy dentist. So that was Glenn's last gimmick before he became the big red monster Kane, so don't feel sad for him. Rick Bogner got fired on the other hand. Going back to the day-and-day occupations gimmicks, one of the trashiest ones is definitely Duke the Dumpster Droese. See what I did there? Cringe, right? Duke Droese was the garbage man. That's it. That's his backstory. That's all you need to know about him. He seems to really love his job, like really enjoy throwing trash into the truck. He found it very satisfying and almost orgasmic. I did like those vignettes though, despite how ridiculous the concept of a garbage man who is also a wrestler. And I like how he promised to take out the trash in the WWF, meaning he's gonna take care of the wrestlers there if you really need an explanation. The whole presentation and the introduction of the character through these entertaining segments is something that deserves an applause. Hey, it's the early 90s, if it's corny, give me more. The Dumpster made his debut on a Raw episode in 94, defeating legendary jobber Barry Horowitz, and just like any new character, he goes on to have a winning streak against other enhancement talent until it was over after 6 months, which is very impressive. His finishing move was called Trash Compactor. Awesome. Despite claiming to take out the trash out of the WWF, he did not, unfortunately. Maybe the World Wrestling Federation was already cleaning before he came, I don't know. His biggest feud, however, was with Hearst Helmsley. And not only did he lose the feud, he also lost his hair. He was never the same without the long hair. From a trash man to a plumber, enter T.L. Hopper. He at least a garbage man made sense and had some punch potential. But a plumber? Really? Come on. How is this allowed? Like usually, even if the gimmick is over the top, you still found the vignettes horribly good, but I tried and just cannot believe these vignettes were aired on TV. I find it hard to believe that no one said, you know what, this is not good, we cannot air this on TV. I don't see the appeal, it's just sad and humiliating to the wrestler who played the character. And you can see he really didn't want to do it. There's gotta be a story behind this gimmick that I'm missing. This had to be a joke. So the character made its TV debut wearing low-hanging jeans and a stained undershirt. Despite what the character said about making people respect the job, this gimmick was insult to those hard-working men actually. Anyway, he would also carry his Plugg named Bitsy to the ring with him and celebrate his victories by sticking it in his opponent's face. At least there's some sort of a use of the gimmick. His biggest victory was a home improvement match against his fellow working man Doug Drosy in a match that some would consider it a dream match. Dean Douglas, formerly known as the franchise Shane Douglas, the ECW champion in Extreme Championship Wrestling. Now he's the teacher Dean Douglas, Dean as a college dean. This gimmick feels like watching paint dry for 1 hour long. It's not bad, it's not over the top bad, it's just boring bad. His segments, which were aired to establish the character, the least I can say about them are unamusing. He would also give you the most uninteresting, painfully boring lectures educating you about terms and words that we intellectual masses never heard before. He would also analyze some matches and talk about the mistakes while of course downgrading the performance because he's a heel. He would degrade the babyface's performances after their matches, had a horrendous in-ring gear, and he would scratch the chalkboard to piss you off. Truly an evil heel. He's like the middle school teacher you hated so much, and that teacher decided to enter the wrestling business and keep on making your life a living hell. Case in point, I don't like the gimmick. Shane Douglas hated it, the fans did too, and it's not like Mr. Know-It-All, I'm smarter than you type of gimmick never worked, because look at Damien Sandow for example. But Dean Douglas cannot be described as fun and entertaining gimmick. His run wasn't good neither, he was portrayed as a loser. But hey, he held the Intercontinental title for about 20 minutes. I would rather have Bastian Booger any day. Now how about some sport gimmick? There's that too. Don't worry, this era had it all. The Goon. Remember the Goon? His run might have been short, but his legacy sure lived on as one of the most popular figures among wrestling fans. He cemented himself as one of the legendary names of the 90s. And what's not to love about the Goon, honestly? It's great. A hockey player who was kicked out of every league he ever participated in for being too violent, so he came to the World Wrestling Federation. Makes sense. And he didn't need to change his gear either. He remained wearing his hockey outfit, he even carried his hockey stick with him. He didn't need no wrestling gear, why would he? He looked great. He debuted on the July 20th, 96 episode of Superstars, where he defeated Jobber via countout. Actually, all of his victories in the WWF, which were in total just 2, were via countout. At least he left on a high note. His last match was against The Undertaker. He lost in less than a minute though. Truly unforgettable character. Then we got Knuckleball. He's a Brooklyn brawler disguised as a baseball ball. Steve Lombardi really has gone through a lot of changes during his 30-year career in WWE. First he was a Brooklyn brawler, then he was MVP, then Doink the Clown, then the Red Knight, Kim Shee, remember him? Then the already mentioned Knuckleball, then went back to the Brooklyn Brawler, then Doink the Clown again and back to the Brooklyn Brawler for one last time. So not that much of a character change. I don't know the backstory of this Knuckleball character, but he was supposed to be an angry baseball player inspired from the movie The Warriors. He went through a lot of name changes with the same character, but Abby Knuckleball Schwartz is without a doubt the best one. And yeah, that's it. The most successful sport gimmick in that era has to be Sparky Plugg. Bob Holly when he had long hair and was less of a dick. Before becoming Thurman Sparky Plugg, he used to be enhancement talent in the early 90s. He was released and brought back in 94 as a new and improved man. He's a NASCAR driver now and also wants to wrestle for the WWF because I think being a race car driver doesn't pay that well, I don't know. I don't understand how this is supposed to be a character, like what's the connection between the two professions? Being a NASCAR driver means you're fast and nobody can catch you? It's not like Bob Holly is a high flyer. At least the absurd gimmicks that I already mentioned were used as a substance added to the wrestler. This however doesn't change the fact that Thurman Sparky Plugg was a bland wrestler. Also the vignettes are terrible and that's all because Bob was either nervous and couldn't cut a promo to save his life or he wasn't really thrilled about this new persona. Either way, this is supposed to be the viewer's first impression of you. This should hype them to see you on TV and yet this is what they have. And for the love of God, they butchered the name on the car. Wow, could they care any less about him? The name immediately changed to Bob Spark Plugg Holly, so he became a main eventer. Oh wait, he didn't. And just like Kane, Holly managed to survive through a bad gimmick. He could have been released if he didn't become hardcore. Man Mountain Rock. It's a gimmick that proves how outdated and out of touch Vince is even back then. A gimmick of a grunge looking guitar player in 95 when the grunge was already dead, they're almost 1 year late to the party. While music gimmicks such as Double J Jeff Jarrett and Men on a Mission, who were around the same time as Men Mountain Rock, were in the positive side because they used the gimmick element to establish themselves, and it wasn't just a small part of the character, it made their character. However, Man Mountain Grunge didn't have the same appeal. Sure, he can shred a WWF logo electric guitar before every match, but what else can you do? What did it help your character inside the ring? What does it tell the viewer about you? There is no development whatsoever. Every time he comes to the ring, he does his shtick and he have the match and that's it. The look and the outfit choices didn't help neither. He made his debut in February 95 and he was released in October of the same year, and I'm still waiting for the real Max Payne documentary to drop. Who? I'm referring to a gimmick called Who, by the way. Yeah, it's real. That's Jim Neidhart under the mask, one part of the legendary tag team Hart Foundation, being downgraded such a stupid gimmick that was made for cheap laughs and terrible puns like who's on the ring and who's on first, please kill me. This gimmick lasted 3 months longer than it should and he never won a match. I'm sure this was a classic rib. Xanta Klaus. Everybody has a price, even Xanta Klaus. That's what Ted DiBiase proves on the holiday episode of Raw from '95, where good guy Xanta jumped the babyface Savio Vega from behind, showing his greedy color and betraying Vega's trust. Sure, he made kids cry that day while DiBiase was laughing his ass off. It wasn't one and done thing. No. This new heel Xanta Klaus now goes by the name Xanta Klaus. That's right, he's a character on the show. He's from the South Pole and he steals presents. The $1 Million Man would accompany him to his matches, his ring gear is ridiculous, and the character disappeared after a few appearances. That's the late Balls Mahoney in case you're wondering. Toxic Turtles. Yes, this was a thing. I'm not joking. I wish I was. The new generation era was true an acid experience, man. Unfortunately, there's no story to digest here. Just two guys wearing Mutant Turtle Ninja outfit, one of them happened to be Gilbert by the way, they had a match they wanted and they disappeared. Another tag team entry. Techno Team 2000. The gimmick of this tag team is that they came from the year 2000, I guess. They went back 5 years in the past to make the WWF debut in '95, which is very weird. I would have gone back to the 80s if it was me. Hey, maybe that time machine broke or something. That wasn't explained, however. They were labeled as a tag team that was ahead of its time, and as part of the new generation of the WWF, they were said to be determined to bring the new generation into 21st century. No thanks. No one's gonna wear those outfits. Techno Team 2000 lied to the fans, and people didn't call them on their BS. They got away with claiming that they're from the future. They failed to bring the new generation into the 21st century. It wasn't just the gimmick that sucked, the in-ring talent too. This is Ron Simmons as Farouk Asad the Arabic Gladiator. Nothing to add here, the gear speaks for itself. Moving on to the final gimmick entry on this video, we're gonna wrap up with a very memorable 90s character. This right here is an S-tier of a crappy gimmick. I'm not even sure if this is even a character. But hey, if it looks hideous, it counts to me. Of course I'm talking about Giant Gonzalez, a man Undertaker couldn't even defeat at WrestleMania. Giant Gonzalez has one of the most iconic wrestling outfits that is, which is technically being naked. With that costume on, I think he was made to look like a real life monster. Who's they fooling, because clearly he's not. Can't be a monster if you wear boots, am I right? Although he looks like a Titan from Attack on Titan who left the island and decided to try professional wrestling for a change. Heck, he looks like the Beast Titan on 240p quality. Speaking of his costume, I appreciate how realistic it looks by 90s standards. From the body hair, the matching color of his arms and hands, the lower part of his legs looks real as well. You don't get the feel that it might be fake at all. Goes to show you how much effort they put on these things back then. I also do appreciate the size and length of his ass. It's pretty detailed as well. I can't help but look at it. It's very haunting. It's beautiful. Very beautiful. I'm sorry, where was I? Giant Gonzalez, who may rest in peace, didn't have the lengthy run in WWF. He was basically brought as an opponent for The Undertaker. And the least I can say, they didn't have quite the chemistry. Size don't matter because Giant Gonzalez had a short run in WWF and left his mark of professional wrestling by proving that talent and titles don't matter sometimes. It's all about the look, and he did have an unforgettable look that still haunts our dreams. It's over now, ladies and gentlemen. We have escaped the hellacious time that is the new generation era. It's quite the experience to go back and relive all these, dare I say, fantastic gimmicks. We saw the possibilities and variations of different characters that Vince's crazy brain was capable of producing, and it's very amazing to be able to digest it. Anyway, I hope you guys had fun. If you really enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching again. I'm MH and I'll see you soon. Tschüss!